Good afternoon. Welcome to Touring the Two for this April 23rd, 2021. I am your host, Gregory T. Roberts. You know we go live. We don't do it no other way. Let's go into the weather. The weather today is 54 degrees, high of 55. Tomorrow, 40% chance of rain, high of 54, low of 43. And Saturday, partly cloudy, high of 52, low of 34. Next week, trend is warmer, but then the weekend is going to get down in the 50s. There's been so much news going on, but as that news has been going on, I want to challenge you. If you want to hear information on the verdict, the that happened this week, and the other shootings. There are other videos by other DJs, PA, Big Rob, that address those issues. So we have to keep on moving. Today's guests, and they're going to be popping up. Rita, who works at the Hope Project, is something came up, but we have a great substitute and a person that I know. Sarah Johnson, please come in. How you doing?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing?
Thank you for stepping in. This is a very important issue that a lot of people don't know. We're going to talk about sex trafficking, and I'm just going to pretend like I'm dumb, because there's a lot of stuff that I don't know. I want to say hello to my sister in Atlanta, Georgia. Also, let us know where you're at. If you want to get involved in the conversation as well, and would like to see the program, hit us up on Facebook on WVS 103.7 or M106. Sarah, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself before we go into today's subject? Your husband is going to be coming in as well.
Sure, great. Well, I am Sarah Johnson, born and raised in Muskegon, and I am now the executive director of the Hope Project, where we work with survivors of sex trafficking and vulnerable youth.
Okay.
Yeah.
But how long have you been doing this?
I've been with the organization about 11 years now, and executive director 2 years.
Okay. So you got a promotion coming.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I mean, I started out just volunteering. We used to have a thrift store on Laketon and was just volunteering in their thrift store, and volunteered with them for 2 years. And then they needed someone to do some speaking about human trafficking. So I became their communications director. And as we started to raise awareness about this issue, the survivors of sex trafficking started to come forward and said, hey, that happened to me when I was a little girl. What do you have? And so we had to start developing a service for the women and children too that we serve.
I need you to, if you've ever gone through this information and are currently go through this information, to get some paper and a pen, because you're going to need to write down this information, because we're definitely going to give you some help today. Yeah. Sarah, how do we start? It's hardly, with so much news going on, people are not talking about one of the biggest issues that are happening in this country, and it just kind of letting it go fly by night, is trafficking. Mm-hmm. Would you talk to us about what's going on?
Yeah, especially what we see more so in West Michigan. I mean, human trafficking is one, it's all over the world. It's a global issue. This just isn't a local issue. And I think people are surprised that it is a local issue, because they just think of human trafficking happening overseas. But it does happen here in the United States. It happens locally. And what we are seeing is more to be family members pimping out their children because of a drug addiction and letting someone else use them however they want to. And that family member will get paid for that. Another thing that we see is with drug addiction and trafficking are very closely linked. So someone who might be addicted to drugs then starts to prostitute for that habit. And sadly, she meets the wrong people, and then eventually her drug dealer ends up becoming a pimp, and then there's no choice in the matter whether or not she has to do what she has to do, and so then she gets forced out there to be on the streets, and that is a form of sex trafficking.
That's insane. Usually we have somebody that says sex trafficking is a huge problem in Atlanta. It's
Mm-hmm.
a hub. It's all over the, like you said, it's all over the world.
All over. It's all over. Yeah, I know. And, I was just talking to someone about this yesterday. I mean, because someone was saying, wow, it's a huge problem here. And it really defines by, what is big to you. I mean, for me, one person, that's too much, it should never happen in our community.
Right.
Um, but I mean, we have worked with over 100 women. We have 40 teenagers on our caseload. We work with vulnerable youth, so 20 of those are survivors, and then 20 of those are vulnerable youth. And we have a mentor program for them and
Hold,
therapists too.
hold up, Sarah.
All right, sorry, am I talking too fast?
Slow. I just need you to repeat that because people need to hear what you just said. You have adults, but you have teenagers.
Yes, 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 we start at age 11 years old. Our organization
11?
is 11 years old. Yeah.
Okay, keep going because you got me.
Yeah, it's horrible. It's the trauma they have experienced. Yeah, it's just crazy. I'm not going to go into specifics because if I did, we would all be crying on the air. And I know those who are listening don't want to start crying right now. But yeah, we started as young as 11 years old. A lot of those, the younger people that we work with were trafficked by a family member, like I said, for a drug addiction. Some of the women that we serve even were trafficked younger than that. But now they're on their road to recovery and healing. And the beautiful thing about the Hope Project is that we exist to give hope. And we're not here just to share a sad story with someone. We're here to really empower these women and children and help them overcome from this horrible trauma that they've experienced and give them the tools to help them to overcome.
And not to even mention, like you talked about the local bases, but the traveling, you have people traveling from city to city, moving people all over the place for sex trafficking.
Yeah, yep, that happens as well. Yep.
So,
It's local, but then also people are moving as well. Mm-hmm.
in Western Michigan, this is happening right here in Western Michigan.
Yes. Yep.
I know you said you don't want to you want to give hope,
Mm-hmm.
but we need to hear maybe some information on maybe someone,
Mm-hmm.
a story that you can tell us and how they maybe recover. Because I've seen um, by being there on Friday nights, some of the people that started but have recovered. So, can you give us a story?
Yeah, yeah. One of the women who came to us, she was trafficked at about 4 years old.
4.
Yes, 4 years old. And she was in her 20s when she came to us. And really just still extremely broken, trying to work through this trauma, but really struggling, having nightmares every night. And we were able to sponsor her counseling. And now, I mean, she is doing a lot better. She was even able to graduate from college. And she's doing a lot better now, and we still sponsor her counseling. But it's a journey for sure. Healing is a journey. It's just not a quick fix solution. There is no quick fix to this issue when you're dealing with trauma.
Mm-hmm.
But she is doing a lot better. She even tells us she doesn't know she'd be alive today if it wasn't for us. We have quite a few women that will tell us they don't know if they would be alive today.
And
Mhm.
if I'm stuttering, is because I'm stunned. But I knew this, but I also knew that you guys really aggressively go out there to try to help people.
Oh yeah, yep,
Uh,
yeah,
talk,
we do.
talk to us about that. Going out and the outreach and trying to. And somebody wanted to know, um, is Sarah part of the Hope, part of Hope of Muskegon area? Yes, yes,
Yeah.
she is. Okay.
Yeah.
So I didn't need to answer that questions. And you can answer questions on Facebook. Like we said, WVS 103.7 or AM 106, or my page, Gregory T. Roberts, as well. Okay. Sarah, what are some of the things that you would want people to know? Some of the myths, some things, some facts. What are some of the things you would want them to know about sex trafficking?
Yeah. Well, one, that it happens everywhere. It's just not in big cities. It happens. Yeah, it's happening here in Muskegon County. That's one thing I'd want them to know. It does not happen. Sometimes there is a myth that it's saying this happens at Walmart. I don't know if you've seen any of those Facebook posts.
Yeah.
Um, and so that there might be some stalking happening, but it's not human trafficking.
Hmm.
With human trafficking, there has to be force, fraud, or coercion involved if the person is 18 years old and they're doing a commercial sex act. And then
Hmm.
if they're under 18 years old, involved in any type of commercial sex act, then it's sex trafficking. So, for example, if there is a girl or a boy, it happens to boys as well, it just doesn't happen to girls. But if there is someone who has to perform sex, to do some type of sex act in order to sleep at trafficking, if they're under 18 years old, and it's called survival sex. So people need to realize that that is a form of sex trafficking.
Can you give us the definition of that survival sex again, because you froze up for a second?
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
There is force, fraud, or coercion involved, and you're over 18 years old, and you have to perform a commercial sex act, then that is that's under the definition of sex trafficking.
Hmm.
But if you're under 18 years old, you don't have to prove force, fraud, or coercion. And if you're doing a commercial sex act, and commercial sex meaning that you're exchanging something for sex, then that is sex trafficking.
And we find out in the world with so much stuff going on, but yet this just keeps on happening,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's not being addressed.
Yeah, starting to. I mean, we're here finally. I mean, we have a ministry here working on this issue. So, I mean, I'm hoping it's being addressed. We also have a local task force. I co-chair that task force, the Lakeshore Human Trafficking Task Force. So we can address this issue and have people working together to solve this. Because the whole project, we can't do it by ourselves. It takes the community.
Okay, it does take a community. Before I get the guys into this, how important are dads and fathers and, like you said, family?
Oh my gosh, extremely. Extremely. I would say the majority of our girls and women who have been trafficked did not have a good father in their home.
Oh, wait a minute. With that said, we're going to add these two gentlemen, Nathan Johnson, Pastor Johnson, and Norman Young. Welcome to the conversation, guys.
Hey, good to be here, man. We really appreciate hearing from Sarah. She's dropping some really good gems, and I'm learning a lot in this process right now. So,
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Thanks, Greg. Thanks for having me on here. My beautiful wife too. So really do appreciate that. You know,
I know she's dropping dimes like Steve Nash.
Yes.
I mean,
there you go. There you go.
I know that's right.
guys, I want to address this next question to you. She said a lot of the women in sex trafficking didn't have, or the absentee of dads. Who wants to take that one?
Yes. I mean, it's not, we look at this as a big picture perspective. We look at the ills of society, right? We think of incarceration, sex trafficking, drug addiction, the gangs, all that. And we look at all of the ills of society, right? It comes back down, if we get down to the real root issue, root cause, the Achilles heel of all this is the lack of fathers in the home. And sometimes it may not just be the lack of fathers, but we may have absentee fathers. They're there, but they're not there. And when you have children growing up and you're missing the big picture perspective of the nucleus family, and the fathers primarily are missing, it's the stakes are a lot higher, and the chances are higher that you're going to find yourself in a broken situation, such as incarceration, sex trafficking, drug addiction, or exemplifying the very thing that you've seen. So if you've seen dysfunction, by the time you become an adult, it's again, nothing's ever 100% when we're talking social issues, but there is a very high chance that you're going to exemplify the same behavior that you've seen growing up. And if you've seen behavior, a lack of a father, you've seen that not being displayed in the household, there's a strong possibility you're gonna do the same thing.
Sarah, you said now, Pastor Nate said drug addiction. How big does drug addiction play in the trafficking?
Huge. We actually have a recovery coach on staff, and we have a recovery group because a lot of the women that we work with struggle with drug addiction. And then, like I said before, even just part of like the buying side of things, children are being sold because of someone else's drug addiction habit. And that's what we're seeing here.
People do Muskegon, do you Western Michigan, do you hear this? People being sold, stolen. It is happening in your community. I'm stuttering. Nate, for the first time, Nate's probably saying Greg is stuttering. You don't know what to say.
They've got to realize this. So we've worked with over 100 survivors here in Muskegon County at Hope Project. Not all of them were trafficked here locally. Some of them they were trafficked when they were a lot younger, and now they're trying to deal with the trauma. But you have to realize there's a larger demand. So that's just the victims, right? And so we have this whole demand side that we have to address because someone is using these people and they're getting away with it. And that's not okay.
And they're using the people that are using these women or these guys that are the pimps or the people that are hiring these people is straight cash. It's all about the money.
Yeah.
Any of you guys want to talk about that? You mean it's all about that dollar bill?
It is. Some people would phrase it, if you're on the street, it's all about that almighty dollar, right?
Yeah.
Because that becomes the thing that becomes king inside of an individual. And it's even if we bring it back a little bit before it even becomes the money issue, is when there's a lack of parental protection around the children. We hear it all the time here with working with men and women coming home out of incarceration, out of the streets. One of the things that is so common amongst our whole tribe here, Fresh Coast, and Sarah can attest to this too at the Hope Project, is the majority of us were sexually molested as we were younger. And the end result of that, it produced an unhealthy sexual appetite. Mm-hmm. So when you have an unhealthy sexual appetite and you're on the move, there's no core values or boundaries in what you'll do. Mm-hmm. And that unhealthy sexual appetite has the potential, again, nothing's ever 100%, but it has the potential of taking you farther than you want to go. But the thing that is the proof that it has you in bondage is that it'll get you totally out of character with yourself. Mm-hmm. No one is thinking 12, 13, 14, 15 years old. Man, I can't wait to become 25 years old so I can go out here and spend $50, $100 and buy some chick so I can have her for 30, 45 minutes and have sex with her. No one's thinking that I want to be a John. I want to go pick up prostitutes. And think of this, the sickening in the mind, you're going and picking up women who are broken. They're addicted to this. Isn't like there's no chase, there's no pursuit. You're just, here goes 20, 30, 40, $50, whatever it may be, in exchange for a sexual favor. Think of how tarnished the mental has to be in that.
So you're just going after these broken people, men and women that have been broken for years, and you're just getting what you need to get.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Think of how selfish it is. I mean, you could look at this from all these different angles where all these unhealthy sexual appetites and unhealthy paradigms that we have about this, and you're viewing women as objects as opposed to, man, this is someone's daughter, this is someone's mother, this is someone's sister. Yeah. They've stopped being a human being in that person's eyes, and now they're just an object that you just have sex with.
Wow.
And part of that too is pornography. Because pornography is training your mind that person is just an object.
I was just getting ready to ask you, Sarah, how does the internet play into this trafficking?
Yeah, tremendously. I mean, with the demand side, I mean, if Usually, I mean, I would say if anyone is addicted to pornography in your city, then you're going to have a human trafficking problem because it goes hand in hand. And a lot of the women that I serve were forced to be in pornography, and some of them were forced to be in pornography as children. And so people need to realize that that person behind the screen, a lot of those people, they do not want to be there, you know. And so realizing that pornography, you using that, you view people as objects instead of human beings who have value and worth.
I think what you guys are saying is matter of fact, is that people stop looking at people as their neighbor, as somebody's daughter or somebody's son, as a human being, and it's some sex toy that I can just go get my jollies off, basically.
Right. And then here's the crazy thing is, think of how hypocritical the mindset becomes when we step into it. It's okay, Greg, for me, just look at it from multiple different angles. It's okay for me to smack your daughter, but you better not put your hands on my daughter. Okay. It's okay if I your daughter's addicted to drugs, and it's okay for me to take advantage of her and do with her what I want, but you better not do that to my sister or my mother. You better not do it to anyone. You see, it's okay for me to do that to you, but you better not do it, because then all of a sudden now there's this righteous anger that wants to rise up. But that, in other words, that just unveils the selfishness in it. See, it's okay for me to do it, but you better not do it though, Greg. I can do it to your daughter, but don't you dare do that to my daughter.
You better not do it to my daughter. No.
Somebody's gonna get hurt. Yeah.
Somebody gonna get Sarah. How does the road start once you guys get somebody out of that environment? How does the road start?
Yeah, well, depending on what her need is, we'll get her into counseling. We have hygiene items for her too. So if that's something that she needs, we'll be able to provide hygiene items. We have a case manager, we have a recovery coach, and soon we'll have housing for the women and also children too. We're working on opening up 2 homes right now.
Opening a home up for children.
Yeah.
I said, don't forget that a lot of the people in porn have to take drugs in order to do what they're forced to do, which adds to the whole cycle. Yeah. So it just perpetuates. It just keeps going. Okay, so a woman comes in, you have coaches, you have counselors, and does someone that gets trafficked, how long does it take for someone, or are they always going to be dealing with that problem mentally?
Well, the plan is for them to recover, so they won't always be dealing with that problem mentally. And we want to help them have those tools.
Okay.
So, but I mean, it really varies. I mean, sometimes we might have a woman who comes to us who's directly right out of the trafficking. She's just left her pimp, or he was put in prison or whatever. We have that situation, but then we also have women coming to us that they might be in their 50s and they're finding out this happened to them when they were 8, 12 years old. And so that's also a different dynamic.
Oh, okay. So Sarah, I know that your time pressed. So
actually, I'm okay right now. I'm okay.
Okay. But we're getting ready to face the bottom of the hour. Give me information if there's somebody hurting, if somebody knows somebody going through something. How can they get in touch with you guys?
Yeah, I think one of the things to do, I mean, if someone is in an emergency right there, to call the human trafficking hotline, which is a national hotline number. And we have received calls from to the Hope Project from this number, which is 888-3737-888. That's the National Human Trafficking Hotline. And so let's say if you're in Lansing or you're in Florida, they could use that number and be able to get help.
If somebody, what if I suspect something next door to me, should maybe I call Silent Observer to get the police involved?
Yes. Yeah, you could call Silent Observer. Yeah, absolutely. Yep. And then you can also call our organization, which is the Hope Project, but we're not a 24/7 number, so we're not a hotline. But if you are if someone needs help, they would be able to contact us too, which is 231-747-8555. And our website is hopeprojectusa.org. So they could get a hold of us that way. But also every woman's place, they have a crisis line. And a lot of times domestic violence can look like, well, a lot of times sex trafficking can look like domestic violence.
Mhm.
And so they also work with survivors of sex trafficking. And we partner very closely with every woman's place.
I'm going to make sure I used to be a volunteer there that I get somebody on as well. Sarah, I'm going to let you know before I switch over to the guys. I want you to stay as long as you can because
Okay,
it's important.
I'm okay. I have a babysitter now, so I'm good.
All right, great.
Yeah.
That I want you guys to know that you have an open invitation because this is too important of an issue to just let drop. We're too busy tied up in our politics and what's going on, but yet somebody's daughter or son or mother or brother, whatever you're saying, is being kidnapped, forced into a trade that has existed since forever.
And a lot of it's not even kidnapping. Most of the women that I serve have not been kidnapped.
Explain that. Explain that for me. They weren't kidnapped. How did they get into it? Oh, she froze on me on that important question. Nate.
Yeah, so the majority of them is what and that's my wife Sarah, and so her and I, I'm obviously I hear all this stuff a lot. The majority of the time, what it comes from, the most I don't want to say popular, but the most familiarized way of trafficking is with family members. Family members, they're not out kidnapping children, but they're actually trafficking their own children. Those are the most common ways. And you got to look at sex trafficking defined as what the state of Michigan defines it as any form of force, fraud, or coercion. Okay. So the children could be, I give you a scenario. Let's just say if I was trafficking my daughter and I had a couple friends that they could pay me to come over and have sex with my daughter, that would be a form of trafficking. Wow. Then you have other instances where it starts out with just drug addiction. Let's say heroin and crack, meth, right? It starts out as a drug addiction, but then it becomes to a time to where they can't feed their own habit anymore. So now they can't feed their own habit. So now they're forced to, the thought comes on the streets. Now I'm forced to, or I'm drawn more to a pimp so that I can support my habit. And then we go into a coercion standpoint to now it takes on a whole nother life. And it could go on and on and on after that.
Talk about the culture. They've glamorized being the pimp. Over the years, you look at Superfly, and even before then, the pimp has always been glamorized as this guy. And what this guy is doing is actually degrading women and men.
Yeah.
And boys and girls.
Yeah. Because it's giving this false image out about what a man is. It's saying, oh, if you're a man, that's how you treat these broads here. You know what I mean? All these dames out here, you do whatever, you smack them up, treat them, do this and that. But then now you're damaging the young boys.
I appreciate how you washed your mouth on that one.
Yeah.
You were close, but I appreciate that.
I was about right there trying to, it just for the hearers, if we have hearers that aren't churchgoers, I want to contextualize some of our language.
There you go.
Okay, we talked about the father role. Nate, you got a young man next to you. Norm, introduce yourself one more time and talk about what you do.
Well, first and foremost, man, this is really good information. I'm learning in this space right here. But my name is Norman Young. I'm from the Dads on Deck program from the Intermediate School District. I have a partnership too with here at Fresh Coast Alliance. We do a fatherhood podcast called The Dad Movement, which is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify, right? And what I do is for the Intermediate School District is I work with fathers to work on fatherhood engagement and advocacy. So I try to create opportunities like Home Depot nights where the dads are able to come in and we build bird houses or toolboxes with the kids. We do painting with pops. We do donuts for dads. We done chop it up, did haircuts with dads, things like that. Just opportunities to increase fatherhood engagement. Like Nate said in the beginning, you have dads who are present, but not necessarily present at the time and really in the space and taking quality time with their children. So we just talk more on emphasis of how to spend quality time with their children. And then that advocacy piece is really huge, making sure that they have help with housing, employment. I even kind of try to serve as almost a liaison for the court system too, through the ISD of bridging dads who need support within parental rights, understanding the processes when it comes to parenting time and things of that nature. So that is the just 45-second spiel of what I do.
I'll get you on the next time, and you can do the whole hour. All right.
Oh,
All
we
right.
good. He's long-winded too, Greg.
Hey, he's long-winded too, so we're gonna have to pass.
you
We're gonna have to
two
pass the plate for everybody.
Yeah,
You're
you
good,
two
you're
would get
good.
along great, man. He was good.
Sarah, he used the word quality time. Speak on that the women or the men or the boys that they didn't get that quality time, and the next thing they know, they're in trouble.
Yeah. So quality time is spending time with their fathers. Is that what you're
Oh yes,
referring to? Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, because my internet cut out. I was so mad.
yeah, that's okay. It happens.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, not having that quality time, not knowing that you're valuable. I think a lot of the women and the girls that we work with don't know their value because they were never showed that by a dad or a loving mom. And everyone has different ways that they receive love. And if they don't, if they're not receiving that, they're looking for love in the wrong places.
Oh my gosh. Oh my
Which
gosh.
could lead to a boyfriend who then takes advantage of them and so on and so forth.
Absolutely.
We have some wonderful tips and tools for parents. It's called Tips for Parents. We have tips for teens, a lot of resources. We have them on our website and the Lakeshore Human Trafficking website as well, lhttf.org.
Okay.
Yeah. And I can send you those links if you want.
But yeah, send us those links and we'll put those, make sure that those links get put out there. Norm, you said that you're having these activities for men to spend this quality time. How important is that quality time?
It's super important. I think it all ties into what Sarah is saying. Is there some feedback?
No.
Nope, there's not. Okay. So I think that fathers do set that thermostat, they do set that tone. And we are those, our children, not only our daughters, but our sons, we're that first love, we're that example. We, being honest, we create that standard of what it is to be a man or what it is to show love. So I think it's within that quality time that we're able to reflect and show of really, these are things that are acceptable. This is what real love is versus what you may be taught out in the world or what you may learn with even in relationships that you have. So it's setting that standard of being a real reflection of what love is. So being that standard.
Well, one of the things that we tell guys, and I tell the people that I coach or whatever, don't let a $5 sundress get you in trouble for 18 years or more.
Oh yeah, that's a deep one.
And yeah, don't let that happen. How important is that we explain to the younger guys or the younger girls that being a parent or going in that role of having children is a time that you should be prepared for.
I get what you're saying.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think right now one of the strongest parts of our fatherhood program is really redefining fatherhood. Having a lot of kids, checking in, a lot of this toxic masculinity is what we've been focusing on because that's what we get. It's been a cycle of this is what being a man is, and it's actually nowhere near close of what it costs to be a true man. So talking about quality time, monogamous relationships, showing love, being humility, leading a family. Those are things that are all important. Self-discipline, time management, being able to show emotions, and to be present are all needed, I think, before you have children. Because I think anything that you do not address as a father, as far as not being able to share emotions and all this, maybe a hardened heart, right? Those things like that, I think they only get magnified in our children's lives when we have children before addressing some of the deeper rooted issues. So I think it's not about being a finished product and then having children in a family, but it's about being aware and starting that healing journey and trying not to perpetuate of what we see maybe within our fathers. And even if you had a great father, it's about taking it to the next level and creating even a better standard.
Mhm. A lyric came to my mind. You're so crazy. I think I want to have your baby. I think that was Salt and Pepper.
Yeah.
but that goes on. I when I was in the high schools, is that I heard it so much that our teens tied love into having each other's child.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how do we break that cycle?
I like how you started off with some lyrics, because kind of what Nate said, for real, it's a lot in the music, it's a lot in the media, and it's in the culture, right?
Mhm.
And I think one thing that I've been learning is to really be very cautious of what we let our kids listen to, right? And
Oh,
and what type of example we set at home. Now, don't get me wrong, you can't just have your kids walking in with earplugs. Because if you go in the world, if you just take a step outside your door, you're gonna see something that you necessarily don't want to see.
mhm.
But if we can, within our homes, show what real love looks like, and we're taking the time to have the real conversations, not just the birds and the bees, but for real. No, this is what this is. This is what A and B will get you C. This is what love
Right.
is, and making that standard. So then when they go out in the world, they can say, I see that, but I'm telling you, that's not what that looks like. Or this is what real love is. Or this is what it's really costs to be a man. Or this is what it really looks like to be a woman and to be comfortable who she is and things like that. So much of it starts within the home.
I
I
want
want
to add to
to
that.
go ahead, Sarah.
They don't even have to go out in the real world. They have their phones, right? And then so they're getting, I mean, people are contacting them already.
Yeah.
But on their social media apps, whether send me a pic or
Yeah.
whatever it is, and there's people wanting their attention.
Yeah.
And so as fathers can rise up and recognize that in their children, that
Yeah.
other people are wanting their attention, and teaching that child not to give them an image of themselves, because that's what we're seeing. There's a lot of sexting that's happening, and that makes someone extremely vulnerable for trafficking, and it can lead into sex trafficking. But being that present father, that present mom in the home who's understanding that and who can really help love their child through that, because I'm telling you, they are approaching your kids, our kids, and to be aware of it and to have the conversations now of who are your friends on social media? Why do you have 3,000 friends when I know you only really have maybe 10 friends, real friends?
What I did was with my daughters or anyone I coached is that I had to be their Facebook friend. I had to be in. You are nuts if you are not checking those phones. And excuse me. Also, kids have dummy phones and all kinds of stuff. And also, your phones can do a lot of things. Like you can change who you are. People, you need to be internet savvy. Pastor Nate, talk a little bit more about what you deal with too with men and women.
Yeah, I want to finish a thought that they were just discussing, with the children and the importance of them, children being brought up in a healthy environment. Comes back on parents being intentional with their children, right? Because so much of the time, I remember my time that I had spent in prison, which was well over a decade, in years that I was inside, that the majority of the men that I was in there with, they were disciples, but they had been discipled by media. They let music videos disciple them. They let the negative influences of the children at the school, which, not to paint a picture that we can guard our children and protect them from everything out there, but we have to be intentional to making sure that we're just not trying to push our kids over to go watch TV. Yeah. Here, take my iPad and watch music videos, and there's no parameters on what they can do. But then it shapes the generation, because children are like wet cement, right? You're either going to put good impressions on them or you're going to put bad impressions on them. By the time children turn about 14, 15 years old, we very well, if there has not been some parameters, we very well may have lost them. And then this is what you end up finding out. This is how you know it's already gone over the hill. When you start talking with youth, you say, "Hey, how you doing today?" And here's the response: "Oh, hey, what do you got going on later? Oh, what'd you learn at school today? Did you have a good day today? I guess." Here's what we know: the educational pilot light has gone out. Now, here's what it done: it's done went over the hill, and now we're going to be fighting a totally different battle. Now it's not about raising and impacting kids. When individuals get to that place, it's just like with kids. I tell our people here, I said, listen, when your children get to a place where they stop calling you mom and dad and they start referring to you by your first name, you very well may have lost them forever.
Right. How important, this is a question for all three of you, how important is a good, solid foundation to your children, daughter, sister? How important is that good foundation of what is right and wrong?
It's huge. It's everything. Because if there is not a strong foundation that all these things are built upon, trust me, I can tell you this. I had to learn it in my own life, because all of us have dysfunctional families on some level, right? Some worse than others. So with ours, when there's not a solid foundation and there's not something to build upon, when individuals get older, then there's no frame of reference on what to go back to. The drawing board on here's what I need to do. Like, for instance, a strong foundation in terms of a work ethic. If I don't see my father or my parents displaying a healthy work ethic, going to work every day, you know what I mean? And just the power of consistency. When I become, and I see it now with the folk we work at, 40, 50 years old and have absolutely no work ethic whatsoever. And having a strong moral foundation, right? The difference between right and wrong. What type of core values does our families possess, individually? Are they healthy? If not, man, when the children get older, that's when the conversations about prison, jail, the streets, and I don't understand why these kids keep running out in the streets, is what a lot of people will tell me, right? Especially the parents or grandparents. I don't understand why they run out into the streets. I said, well, let me tell you this. The issue is not first necessarily that they're running to something out there in the streets. It's the fact that they're running from something that ain't in the household. When you have a household and you don't have mom and dad right there living intentionally, loving on the kids, and there's not this sense of belonging, like Norman can't come home and say, man, I feel like I'm part of the young tribe. If that need is not being met at the household, they will go out into the streets to find the gangs, the streets, the whole 9 yards, because that's where they're going to find that sense of belonging. Yeah. It's a counterfeit version of the real thing. When kids are going out there into the streets, I fell into that myself. They're not running to something, they're running from something. But in their youthful naivety, in the thought life, they don't have enough whatever to put the two and two together to realize that that's what they're going out there. You stay out there long enough, eventually that hook's going to come in, and then the end result, I can tell you now, most people don't want to hear it. You end up dead, you're going to end up going to the penitentiary, or you're going to end up strung out on dope, period. There's a very few people making out the game without having experienced those three things. And here's none of us come from it.
Hold on, we got to pass the plate after that.
Okay, because I'll keep going. Let me stop. I'll ask questions like that.
Sarah, how about you on that question?
Yeah. You know what comes to my mind is, for a lot of our listeners probably have not had a solid foundation, and they might really struggle with that. And I just want to encourage those who are listening that if you haven't had that, I want you to know that there are people that could help. I mean, we have a lot of churches here in Muskegon County, and wherever you're listening to, wherever you are, I know there's people who are willing to help you in whatever walk of path that you're needing to have. And there's people that could be willing to mentor you, whether through the church or another organization. But I just want to encourage people who are out there who haven't had that, there's still hope for you. And that's what keeps coming to my mind, and that there is still hope, and you don't have to do this thing alone.
For the first time, the stats said that under 50% that people claim that they go to church, but there are other organizations out there that will help people. Or I know that Pastor Nate, that somebody can walk into your building anytime.
Oh, no doubt.
So Norman, I didn't get to you on that question.
Where should I go?
I think I confused you.
Like, what is the question?
Reiterate that question.
No,
again.
you know what? I have one line to say. Nate says it all the time. That Nate says it all the time, right? Kids don't have a past; they only have parents, right?
Yeah, kids don't determine their future by their past. They determine their future by their parents.
That's it.
Kids don't have no past, so they can't determine their future by their past. So we become whatever we continuously gaze upon.
I had an incident that I can't go into, but how important is our mouths, what we're saying as parents with little children or children around?
Yeah, I think that, man, I think the biggest lie is do as I say and not as I do. Because more than likely, they're going to do a lot of what you say, so it's both of them. You have to be very cautious of what you say with your children, that you speak life into them, because a lot of times with what you say, they start to gain their identity, a lot of what you say. So when it's a lot of hurtful words, as much as you say they're strong kids, they're just words, no, they break kids. It really can make and break kids of what you say and how you build them up or tear them down.
A wise man once said, death and life are in the power of the tongue. And he also said, later on in some of his other writings, a man by the name of King Solomon, he said that words spoken are like well-driven nails. If words are like well-driven nails, nails help hold things together. They help assemble and they help build up. Our words can literally define whether we're going to build our children up or we're going to tear them down. The good news is we get to choose. So it's imperative that death and life are in the power of the tongue. The words that come out of our mouths is gonna help literally determine whether they have, like Norman alluded to, whether they have a false sense of masculinity, this toxic masculinity. When we hear this, stop crying, boys don't cry, football players don't cry, and you grow up with this image all the time of all these negative things that are spoken. Eventually, here's what in the end result later on, when we fully mature, we end up becoming these individuals that are carrying these false narratives around on what you think a man is. And then, you can put that into every aspect of life, but those nails are going to build or tear down.
What about, Sarah, what about speaking to a woman about how women take those positive or negative things that they may hear?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm just thinking too of the importance of listening to your children, because sometimes you can say all these words you want to, but if you're not listening to what your children have to say, they're going to go out somewhere else and tell whoever, whether it be a predator online or what's really on their heart. And so to be able to listen to them, because those words are really powerful, and if you don't know where your child is coming from, it can cause even more damage. Whether it be like, why didn't you pick that up? Or just whatever you're yelling at your kid, it can be very damaging. And to understand where that child is coming from, it's just extremely important to hear them out. Because they can feel that value. That's showing value to someone if you listen to them.
Norman, you got some things coming up. Do you have any activities coming up?
I do. Tuesday nights, I can send the information to you. So if you feel free to post it. We have our fatherhood meetings, Just Dads, where it is one of the most real, authentic spaces you could be in, where we just talk about fatherhood, the roses and thorns, the real parts, the hard parts. And it's an opportunity for men to hold each other accountability and to redefine fatherhood. And then we are having Dr. Jason Wilson next Wednesday. I said Dr. Jason Wilson. I'm tripping.
He's close enough.
Author, sometimes, author Jason Wilson from the book Cry Like a Man. He is going to be keynote in our fatherhood conference, which is going to be virtually from 11 to 1. And that is going to just be a time to do some live Q&A. He's going to be able to share some really encouraging words. It's open for men and women because women need to be a part of redefining fatherhood. And
Hello.
Yep. I said it twice for the people in the back. All right. And then it's also an opportunity to get some free books. We're going to give out some copies of his book, Cry Like a Man. And I'm telling you, you do not want to miss this event. You can, right now, it is almost impossible to book Jason Wilson to speak. And out of love and kindness and a great friendship through another party that I know he agreed to do this conference right now. So,
Sarah, I know that they probably could go on the webs. You guys probably have a ton of things going on.
Yeah. Yeah, we do. We have a lot of stuff going on. One thing I wanted to mention, if they want to learn more about human trafficking, if you just type in the hashtag do something LHTTF, our video will pop up that we created for youth in the schools. And you can hear from, DJ Hilson. We have a state police trooper who's a detective who specializes in cyber crimes. He's sharing on there. We have a couple survivors that are sharing their stories on there. And it's just a great resource tool to learn more about this issue and to empower our kids and ourselves too with this information.
Brother Nate, Pastor Nate, you guys like the hardest working people in show business. You just took James Brown and tossed him to the side. What's going on with Fresh Coast?
Fresh Coast, man. I'll give a quick overview for folk who probably have never heard of us. So we are an organization that specifically works for men and women coming out of incarceration, out of prison, jail, and even those coming out of addiction. And we are providing a holistic approach for those to return back to society from incarceration, but do it successfully. We want to reinvent the whole reentry process. And for also those coming out of addiction, we want to help reinvent the whole recovery game and really deal with the internal issues so that we can unravel the conflicted life. We are a faith-based organization. But you don't got to get a Bible or get hit with a Bible when you get here. It's totally up to the individual. If they want their faith to be a part of the recovery process, it's available in here, but we ultimately let everyone make their own choice on how they want to approach it. We still want people to be successful, still don't want people going back to the joint if they choose not to allow their faith to get involved. We still want to champion the efforts, and we still want to be a benefit and blessing to them. We have a housing program here, and we have recovery coaches, reentry coaches that would do one-on-one coaching with them. We have group sessions. We also have an employment program. We own and operate our own therapy practice. So we have doctors and therapists on staff for trauma therapists, substance use disorder, behavioral health, the whole 9 yards. We have office in Grand Rapids, one here in Muskegon. We are in the process now, and next year we'll be going live with it, building out our own residential treatment facility here in Muskegon. It'll be Muskegon's first one. And so we'll be doing that. And we do recovery coach trainings. We have art therapy, and that I could keep going and going and going. It's a tribe. Yeah. We're here. We're doing this thing together. And we believe that those that are closest to the problem are closest to the solution, but they lack the resources and power. So hence, we bring the professional world and the experiential world together to reinvent reentry and reinvent recovery.
Well, one thing I want to say about your program is that it's no faking it. No. It's real.
Yeah.
And the same thing is the whole project. It's no fluff. I mean, it's do everything to make you come out as a successful individual.
Yeah.
That's right.
We have a couple seconds left. I'm going to give each and one of you your best pitch and how they can contact you. I'm going to let you guys know that this is a friendly, you guys can come on anytime. We can talk about anything because with trafficking and dads and all that stuff, it's just not a hour conversation.
Right.
So I'm going to start with you, Sarah.
Sure. Yeah, they can go to our website, hopeprojectusa.org. They can get a lot more information that way. They can contact us. We do have some registries right now for our homes that we're going to be opening. For our adult home, we're hoping to open this summer, and our children's home, hopefully this fall. So if you're interested in wanting to help out with that, I mean, definitely contact us or buy something from our Target registry or on Amazon or at Menards too. So those are right now, those are just a practical way to help. And you can always give finances,
Right.
you know. And we have a mentor program, and we're looking for mentors to mentor vulnerable youth. So if you're a woman and interested in helping these girls, contact us, and we can go through that application process.
That mentor program is important. I mentored like 4 or 5 guys coming out of prison, and to my knowledge, nobody returned. It is super important. Norman, give us a pitch, buddy.
Yeah. So, like I said, you can find us on the Dad Movement podcast, which is on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. Also, I'm on Facebook under Norman Young or Dads on Deck. And yeah, I think that through social media, or you can call me at 616-304-8360. And yeah, thank you for having me today.
Hey, Nate, give him my information. I'll come on this podcast.
There you go.
I will.
We go.
We'll do it. And I'm Nate Johnson, Fresh Coast Alliance. Get on our Facebook page, like it. Get on the Dad Movement, like that. It's on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. Get on there and check Norman. Norm's the host. They kill it every week. And then for all of our listeners,
I listen to it as well, and I'm not a dad. It's great.
so
Mom listen to it too.
if there are any of our listeners, you have any friends or family members that are getting ready to come home from prison, and you're not quite sure what to do in terms of helping, hit us up. You can send a message through the Fresh Coast Alliance Facebook page or get on our website, freshcoastalliance.org. Send us a message. Hey, we would love to connect with them. We'd love to surround them, help them with whatever we can, and help with a successful reentry.
All right. I want to thank you guys, Sarah, Nate, Norman. This has been Torn in Two. This program happens every Friday live. And we're going to get these people back. Muskegon County, don't be fooled if you think that trafficking is not happening in Western Michigan. And number 2, dads, anybody can be a sperm donor, but you got to be a dad. You have to be a dad. So I'm going to leave it like that before I start preaching. You guys take care. And God bless. Wow. Take care.
My brother.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate you guys. We'll see you.
All right.
See you later. God bless.